Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Carl.
And you're listening to Secret Sonics. Honest conversations chock full of tactical advice to help you build your dream career in music and audio.
Whether it's skill development, mixing mindsets, personal branding, or work-life balance, we talk about ways to help set yourself up for success in the ever-changing music industry.
Let's get started.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Carl. Carl, I am your father.
You know, my dad's name is also Carl.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Carl Sr.?
So here's the thing. For whatever reason, my parents were very against me being junior. So I am the second. And I don't know if maybe there was like a bully in my parents' childhood named the Junior or something, but they were like very much like, I'm not junior. Don't call me junior.
Wow, I learned something deep about you today.
Yeah, so I'm the second. And something deep about you that I want to share with the listeners is that before every episode, when we are getting the video and the audio synced together, we always do the little slate clap to make sure that everything is able to be synced in post.
Yeah.
Where normally, like a normal person doing that would say 3, 2, 1, and then you clap together. But no, not Ben. Ben challenges my metronomic understanding of the time-space continuum and does the countdown at the slowest possible speed ever.
40 BPM.
Yeah, basically, because this is a little behind the curtain for the listeners, but I swear to you, it's always like, okay, we'll clap on 0. You ready, Carl? Okay, 3, 2, 1. And then we clap. And
amazing.
As a drummer,
that was barely exaggerated.
Barely, yeah. I might have not. I probably should have stretched it out a little bit longer. But no, as a drummer, like of course, I'm going to try really hard to subdivide.
Yeah, totally.
But
I'm with you on that. We should just speed it up. I'm so sorry. You know what? I think it's like a subconscious thing of like, oh, the latency on the internet must be bad, so I'll just do it slowly, and that's just kind of what I've always done.
But explain your thought process, because if the latency is making it slow, why would making it slower?
It's not a good reasoning. It's
better.
Just maybe like subconscious. That's what I did. You know, like it's not supposed to be real. It just is what it is. It's just like some stupid habit I got in the habit of, and I'll stop doing it.
Well, don't stop. It's part of you. It's part of your part of your
part of the show that nobody has to know about anymore.
Well, now they do, because I felt compelled to share my struggle, my pain
as Carl II.
As Carl II.
My mom's maiden name is my middle name, so we all got weird things, you know.
It wasn't Junior by chance, was it?
It was not Junior. No,
it was not Junior. Well, hi Ben.
Hi Carl. How are you?
I am good. I'm in a weird mood. Which is good, because we're going to be talking about a weird topic today. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tee it up?
Yeah. I've been wanting to talk with you about artificial intelligence for a very, very long time. And I think you and I are a uniquely suited couple of humans to talk about this, because we come from very different viewpoints on it. And also because we work in very different musical worlds, it has unique impacts to each of us and our future in this industry and our little, neck of the woods in the industry. So, yeah, I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time. I use AI every single day and have for probably like a year and a half now. But I really want to open it up to you first and see if you wanted to just like dive into a specific little thing and expand on it, or if you wanted to start from a big picture and start zooming in.
I'll start on like a big picture of like why I guess maybe I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm not against AI, also like totally. I even like thought about like maybe we should do this as like a debate, like pro AI, anti AI. But I think we won't do that exactly. But looking at the big picture, I am like a bit afraid of where this all goes, and I'm looking like way down the line, like what the really smart people are talking about like, what's it called? AGI, where they actually figure out how to make their own decisions about all kinds of crazy stuff. Right now, we're just in the LLMs, I think it's called, right? Large language models. But at some point, the idea is that there'll be AI that can come up with ideas, and perhaps they'll, decide that humans are kind of in their way and let's just get rid of them, kind of like, 2001 Space Odyssey style. So long term, I think it's a bit scary, and it's a very big power, and people that are much smarter than me, like Noah Yuval Harari, are talking about this, about how like we are wielding a new power that we just have no idea what the consequences are going to be like. This could be even more dramatic than like the atom bomb, or who knows what the consequences of this are for humanity down the line. And so that's kind of what I'm afraid about. In the short term with like music and stuff, so I think AI definitely is helping us make show notes for the show now, and kind of like today I went on ChatGPT and we were looking. I was like trying to help an artist with her lyrics. We were just like looking for some synonyms or rhymes or whatever, and it was just like really great to pull up some words, and gave us some quick inspiration. You made me hip to Ozone 11, which I tried out and I was pleasantly surprised with. So there's definitely good uses out of it right now. But there's also like a lot of danger. I don't know if you listened yet to Travis's episode about AI, from Progressions, our co-sponsor. We sponsor each other. And he was talking about that there's this new, I don't remember, it was called Suma AI or something.
Sona. Sona AI.
Sona. Yeah. I'm not as into the field as you are. And he was saying like it was coming up with prompts for like music. And he's like, okay, I guess like we don't need lo-fi artists anymore. Like, so there's a lot of jobs that I think are going to be in jeopardy. I wouldn't say necessarily artists or mixers or mastering engineers yet, but definitely there's like types of music that people make for, backgrounds of commercials and films and stuff like that, which is a pretty lucrative industry for some specific artists, that like when you don't need necessarily to have a hit song, it needs to just be good enough to be in the background of a movie. That could be really potentially bad for artists. Maybe the flip side is that like, okay, so now you could just focus on really making art as opposed to background music for a film, but this is people's incomes and livelihoods and stuff. So I think it's dangerous and it's scary, and obviously we can't ignore it anymore. So that's kind of I don't know what that was, but that was my first monologue about AI and my deep thoughts and whatever.
So are all of your thoughts fairly negative and like worrisome?
No, I mean, I told you I used Ozone. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm using, ChatGPT every once in a while with some modicum of success. I know there's better ones. Like I know you're hip to Claude, which I haven't used. I haven't used like any of the paid for AI stuff, which are probably better than the free ones. Carl's eyes, people listening, Carl's eyes just went opened up wide.
My eyes opened up so wide they grunted, apparently.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to change things. It's already changing things. Again, like maybe I'm more organic than you in my approach to things. And like you're more like into pop and like things sounding super synthesized sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that organic soul in me gravitates towards it less. I'm more of an old soul than you, I think.
Okay, but that's where I want to fight you.
Yeah.
Because I look at it as AI enabling the exact same thing. The AI, like the way that I'm looking at it and the way that it's helped me and has affected my business and my art, is that it's helped take a lot of the pressure off of me for the things that aren't creative and the things that aren't fulfilling to me, and has opened up more time and energy and mental space for me to pursue the things that are inherently creative and do have the soul in it. So for the same reason that you're saying that the things that you say it might like take out of the process, I'm saying it's enabling me to add more of it into the process.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what a lot of advocates for AI have been saying. It's like you just have to use it as another tool. It's just like now we're recording digitally instead of on tape. Now we're using AI to help us generate random things rather than doing it all by ourselves. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's why a lot of the first skills / jobs, however you want to look at it, that are going to be replaced are things that are inherently not as creative in the first place, right? But you could even say that, I mean, in a way, I would even say that we're all very used to spell check, and we don't look at that as, rewriting our narratives, rewriting our stories, right?
Right. We also have like access to Wikipedia, and we don't have to argue with people about facts that are just readily available, right? On the internet, like if you remember the pre-internet days.
Yeah, or we have Siri that we can ask. Oh, hold on, sorry. We have
never
make sure my
say
phone
that.
Doesn't go up. Yeah, well, the Alexa's downstairs. We have Alexa that if you have a question, if we're like making dinner and we have a question about, how many ounces is 3 tablespoons, or can my dog eat this? We have that at our fingertips, and we don't think anything of it, and it hasn't like yeah, I'm sure it put some recipe books out of business. You know what I mean? Like, I have simultaneously too little faith in humanity and also too much faith in humanity. I have too little faith in humanity in thinking that all of the negative things that AI could bring upon us, I'll try to stay into like, think as a creative and try to stay within the scope of like music industry.
We're not going to talk about artificial general intelligence.
I don't want to get like, I don't want to turn this into like a
apocalyptic scary stuff.
Yeah. All of the negative things that it can do, it's done because a human prompted it to do it, right? And I think it's the decision making and the training that the humans are providing for it that are ultimately going to be the issues. So the too little faith I have in humanity is that humans are going to find a way to ruin it. You know, are going to find a way to ruin a lot of things that we take for granted right now. Like, I think editing. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this too. Like editing for podcasts, creating the show notes for podcasts, like the copywriting for that, doing audio cleanup, even for dialogue, for music. There's a lot of things that it is going to be replacing. But I think also the reason I have a lot of faith in humanity is that, especially in the music industry, we've come across things that have really shaken up all of it, right? From recorded music to electric guitar amps to digital recording to streaming to all of these things. Like, we've found ways to take the new tools that we get and really find a way to use them in new creative ways. And the people that are able to take those new tools and do something really unique with it, those are the ones that are really like, you know, that continue to make waves and push the envelope forward. And I look at it as a challenge, not as like purely an obstacle in what I do, but more of a challenge to myself of how can I use these things in a way that's actually meaningful and helps me to create better art and helps me to make more meaningful relationships with people, and it'll enable me to free up more soul to put into the music, because my soul's not being crushed by all of the editing and, you know, sitting through an hour-long podcast episode to try to find that 45 seconds of a golden nugget that I want to share because I think it's going to help to move people.
Yeah, I was thinking about the new Beatles song that came out a couple months ago, or maybe 4 months. How long ago was that? I don't remember.
It was a while ago now, yeah. But yeah.
It might have been 6 months ago. And they used the AI to clean up John's voice and remove it from the piano. And they were able to kind of like do this whole thing. And the reason why they felt they could do that was because John Lennon was always like so forward thinking about technology. He's like always jumping on the next recording technology. And they felt like knowing that about his personality made them feel like he would be okay with them using AI to kind of like clean up his voice and do this whole new production, including old recordings and new recordings and in between recordings from the 90s, from the anthology era. And they were able to make that song, which, you know, it's actually, I'm happy that song got released, because even though it's not like the best John Lennon song and it's not the best Beatles song, it still has like a certain, I mean, that song was special for a bunch of reasons. Like, I don't know, it was like the end of the Beatles, which for me was emotional. Like, oh, this is actually it, as like a big Beatles fan. But I'm glad it went out into the world, you know? So that is pretty cool. And to know that John had that forward-thinking mindset. And I do think that's healthy. On the other hand, like, I do see today, like, streaming, while it democratizes accessibility to music, right? Artists are not getting paid the same amount as they used to. And the other thing that I've always had a problem with streaming is once everything is available to you, you're not as possessive of the music that you listen to. Like, when you were a kid and you bought a CD, like, that was your music, you know? Like, you bought that, you know, whatever it was. You know, for me, like, let's say the Black Album by Metallica in 8th grade, you know what I mean? Like, that was my record, you know? And now it's like, oh, I'll listen to that, and then I'll listen to that, and then and like, none of the artists stick around in that meaningful sort of serious way like it used to for me. But maybe that's because I'm old, or I'm just an old soul, or just who I am as a person, you know? I don't know. I mean, this is not about AI, but it's just about like things, sure, things are moving on, and there's good aspects to it for sure, 100% good aspects to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is qualitatively better, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I don't want to downplay your emotional connection to like the Black Album, for example, or having like physical CDs in the first place. And I'm 38, going to be 39 very soon, and like I had very similar experiences growing up. Like, I remember like Downward Spiral was one that I remember having that and just being so protective of that physical CD. It was crazy. But that's nostalgic for me in the same way that my Nintendo 64 is nostalgic for me. And like, yeah, I could play, a ROM of that game on a computer, but it wouldn't be the same. It doesn't have the same tactile experience that I had as a kid, because it's not.
Right.
It's the experience that I had that is making me nostalgic, not the actual thing itself. And I feel like throughout the ages, different generations just develop those experiences with
Right.
different things. And I'm sure there are people, even people listening to this now, they're younger generation that, they had that same sort of experience with an iPod,
Spotify.
even with Spotify,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Bandcamp Fridays, might be something that jumps out to them, So I
Right. We are a product of our generation.
yeah, and I think we are, as aging millennials,
Early millennials, actually. I think
yeah,
we're early.
my lower back is saying definitely aging, but I think this is maybe one of the times of reckoning where we have to realize, oh yeah, we're like the older generation now, and I think that's why we're so like, oh, I love vinyl, or I love getting physical CDs, or whatever the resurgence is.
I know it's crazy to me that I had a client who was like in high school. This was a couple of years ago, and I was like closer in age to her mom than her. I was like, this is weird. Like, this is just weird.
Yeah. So I think it comes down to the experience you're having when you're building that nostalgic connection.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's CDs themselves that did it, or vinyl themselves that did it. It's the experience that you have, and whatever that may be. If anything, you could argue that maybe it's better that younger generations are not making as many nostalgic connections to material items. I'll just put that out there. I'm not going to make that argument. I'm just going to say there's,
like, on an environmental level,
or just like from like a capitalism level. I don't know. That could go into like a whole offshoot conversation, but
yeah, maybe people do like their physical items though. Hey everyone, friend of the podcast and Grammy-nominated engineer/mixer Travis Ferrance hosts Progressions, Success in the Music Industry.
It's a podcast exploring creativity, productivity, and growth in music. Travis has set out to document his own journey and bring those valuable lessons to you to apply to your own career.
Join in each week for conversations with some of the industry's best and brightest about the mindsets and strategies that they use in their careers every day.
Whether you're feeling stuck, digging for inspiration, or just looking for a mix tip, Progressions is probably for you.
Go check it out wherever you get your podcasts, or click the link in the show notes. So give me some good examples of like you using AI in a not creative way that helps you do more creatively.
Okay, so I'm fairly certain I have undiagnosed ADHD, right? And if you've ever talked to me, that should probably not be any surprise whatsoever. If you listen to this podcast, that should probably not be a surprise at all. So for me, one of the things that I really love using it for is it enables me to just pull up my phone, just use the voice memo app on my phone, and I'll just like word vomit whatever is bouncing around my head. And especially as a freelance mixing engineer, studio owner, there's a lot of things constantly bouncing around my head, and things that I don't want to forget, things I want to, elaborate on at some point, people I want to reach out to, people I want to follow up with, ideas for the business that I have. And what I can do is I just pull up my phone, pull up the voice memo app, and I just word vomit for, 5 minutes straight while I'm out walking the dog. I airdrop it to my computer, drop it into Descript to get the transcription. I can take that transcription over to Claude and ask Claude to, I just say, hey, I recorded some
brain dump.
Yeah, I just say, I recorded a brain dump of some ideas that I have for my studio business. I would like for you to arrange them as bullet points and categorize them by topic. I'll write a slightly more specific and useful prompt, but just for ease of explanation, that's what I would do.
Sure.
I'll also tell it that the transcription is auto-generated, so there may be some confusing grammar choices or typos, so infer meaning from the rest of the context to infer what I'm talking about. And it'll give me a whole, like, an itemized list. Like a to-do list, or like a organized key topic. So it's a way for me to take my crazy, creative, weirdo, way too many ideas, scatterbrain, and actually put it into something that's organized and I can attack it.
Mm.
So that's one way that it really helps me, because that's not necessarily helping me with a task in the traditional sense, but it enables me to free up that mental space that I always have filled with all of the ideas that I have going on, all the people I need to reach out to, all of those things. And I'm sure there's at least a few people listening to this that know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the brain dump is definitely a good way to do it. But yeah, I guess this is a quicker way, a faster way, less thought out.
Yeah, and I
not
think
thought out, but it's smart.
It also works for me
you.
because I can do it while I'm walking the dog, so I feel like I'm multitasking. But also, I think there's something nice for me. I usually think faster than I can write, or think faster than I can type, and I speak faster than I could probably write as well, and that enables me to not get slowed down by my own hand, or my own, my own writing.
The mechanical, actual thing of writing.
Yeah. So even if it's only saving me a few minutes by doing that, that's not really the point. It's not necessarily purely a time efficiency thing. It's removing all of the potential obstacles of me fully letting all of the wild ideas out of my brain, so that way I can, focus on just getting done with the few really, really important things when I get back from that walk.
Yeah. What about like AI use in actual songwriting and actual production? Have you dabbled with that at all? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have not used it. I haven't used it for generative music yet. I just haven't found any that are useful for what I want to do. I have some ideas of things that I'm looking forward to being useful, but really worked for me musically. I know we've talked about using the AI like master assistant function in the new Ozone. Again, not as a click a button and then it's done, so send it to the client and charge them money kind of a situation, but more as a way to inform myself about some of the things that I've decided to do in the mix, so that way I can see if I'm missing anything that I didn't do on purpose, or I can confirm that I am doing things that are intentionally left of center because I want to, and it's noticing it, and I'm confirming that I'm cool with it. Yeah. And I know we also talked about how when I would be getting very similar sorts of recommendations from the AI, as far as like my low end or the transients in the mix, when I start to get very similar information back and feedback from it across multiple songs, across multiple genres, then I start to realize, oh, there are some tendencies that I have that are maybe working against me. Like I have too much sub in my kick drums. Just as a general thing, that's something that I've found that I used to do. And as soon as I became more conscious of that, through the combination of friend of the show, Nicholas DiLorenzo, giving me feedback before mastering, and also with the AI, it helped me to become a better mixer because it made me more conscious of some of my tendencies. So there's that. Also, I've used it before with clients that we were treating. This is before I switched to Claude, and I was using ChatGPT 4, I think. And we were using ChatGPT as a co-writer, essentially, because we had, 85% of a song written and finished, but the second verse, he was struggling to find something that made sense and
It's
worked.
always the second verse, isn't it?
It's always the second verse. Maybe it's the bridge, but I feel like pop songs now,
or both. In today's example of me using ChatGPT.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, I mean, in pop music, I feel like there's even fewer and fewer bridges.
I'm pro bridge, by the way.
I'm pro bridge in general. I'm pro short and sweet bridge, I think. But what we were using it for was to help us to get a second verse. And what we did was we fed it, I think, the probably 4 or 5 verses that he tried and wasn't happy with, in addition to giving it the context of everything else in the song and the general emotion that we were trying to achieve for the song and the emotion we were trying to achieve in the second verse specifically. So we were giving it all this context that we had, and it gave us a bunch of options. Were any of them amazing? No. But sometimes just that new perspective would shift the way that we were approaching it. And it was just like having another co-writer in the room. Like it wasn't writing for us. It wasn't creating magic
Yeah,
out of thin air.
Yeah, I dig that. Like, I feel like if you had said like, oh, we actually just used exactly what ChatGPT wrote, then I would be like, so is that still like a human artistic expression or not? But no, it gave you that objectivity to kind of make something better. And that, I mean, that's what happened to me today with ChatGPT. Like, we got like a synonym that like enabled us to find a different kind of word that sounded good with a half of it or whatever. That was dope. I guess I could have just used a synonym thing, but I tried it with ChatGPT. But yeah, as long as it's like facilitating your creativity as opposed to doing it instead of, I don't know. I guess I would ask you like what you think about like generating music potentially in the future, these AI kind of music generators. At what point does it still count as like, music production by a human? Because I'm also like a sucker for human interaction and like, even musicians in a room interacting with one another. And I really do think that there's something magical there that does happen versus like completely stuff that's gridded and whatever. I'm very pro-human when it comes to like music playing, production, all that stuff. So this is kind of like, again, old school Ben ideas and thoughts, but what in terms of like generating music via AI, like at what point does it cross the line of like, this isn't cool anymore,
Well, I think for me, I think that point would be when the decision to use that as a final product is based purely on ease as opposed to deciding whether or not it's actually connecting emotionally with the intent. I would have pushed you further. I have a bit of a hypothetical question for you then.
Okay.
So you're all about, bands in the room playing and getting the performance. What if I gave you 2 songs, one of which was written by an AI, and you were tasked with, like here's a demo of it. I want you to play like the real bass part. I want you to go off of this. Versus, there was a singer-songwriter that wrote a song, made a demo, and wanted you to, play real bass on it. Versus a cover song of someone that you didn't know it was a cover, like you'd never heard the song before. And you don't know which one's which. Does the song that was written by AI but performed by you, does that inherently make your performance less human?
Well, not the performance of the bass, but the song itself, sure.
But isn't so much of the song in the performance and the interpretation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I have no idea.
Purely like a rhetorical, like.
I don't have an answer for this. I feel uncomfortable with songs that are written by AI fully or like mostly, and then I feel uncomfortable with songs that would be performed by AI fully or mostly. I feel like at a certain point you have to have a human touching some things and being a part of at least driving the ship, at the very least. But I'm afraid there's going to come a time where we're not going to know the difference because it's gotten so good. And then that just seems like fake, I don't know. It feels like I don't know. My imagination of the future is like now that Apple has come out with those like Provision, whatever they're called, headsets and stuff. And it's like spatial audio, and we're all in these VR headsets, and we're just like listening to music that was created by machines. It just seems very much like what was that Wall-E movie, and that seems quite dystopian to me, as opposed to like in the 70s when, Fleetwood Mac would release a song and like they did every single part and it sounded amazing, just as a comparison.
Yeah,
like I feel there's something just dystopian about potentially what may happen in the not too distant future.
So I can see what you're saying, but the reason I don't think that'll ever become a reality is not because the technology won't be there, but I think because people won't make money from it. What I mean is I feel like the more that the music becomes easier to generate, the more likely the shift is going to be that fans and like the audiences are more interested in the people, and the music is an extension of that. And music is part of that person's expression, but they're in it for the people, not just the song itself.
I hope you're right, although I'm not sure you're right, because I think people are already trying to make money off of like AI stuff. Like I feel like there's like Spotify bots and stuff like that happening already, no?
Yeah, but I think it's not really like, I don't think it's sustainable. Or
if people can figure out a way to make money off of something with less work, they try to do that, right?
But I don't think
that's going to happen?
Some people do. I don't think the audiences are going to just become like Wall-E and just be like, okay, thanks, computer. I feel like there are too many people like you and I that want to know the story behind a song. The reason that I think we are drawn to the physical CDs, that is like we want more than just the sonic experience. We also want to, like, there's their visuals in it. There's knowing the people that are involved in it, like having that sense of like lore in a way. And the reason that I feel like it's going to keep on going in that direction is because I feel like that's exactly what social media has done already. It has made, for better or worse, and I'm sure people can argue for both sides, but it has made music part of the artist's story, an extension of the artist. But an artist is now like, people follow artists, they don't follow songs. And the people that tend to have a lasting impact on listeners are the ones that are unique and authentically themselves. There are people that'll go viral and have a big hit and make more money in the short term, but they're not making as much of an impact on society. You know what I mean? And especially on the industry and on other musicians.
Right. The TikTok like songs that blow up, they tend to like disappear pretty quickly from what I understand.
Exactly. You know, but I think the same reason why people were drawn to Led Zeppelin was there was a mystery to it. It was the music was,
Sure.
People loved the music, but they liked everything about them, the whole story, right? Same thing with the Beatles. Like
we're always like hunting down like interviews with our favorite artists. Like, what does this person actually think? What do they really like? You know, like,
yeah. And I think the Beatles
if like Tom York is like on an interview, like you better believe I'm going to be listening to that interview, you know, as soon as I can, you know. My
point back to when you were talking about the new Beatles song too, like you were saying, like it wasn't like, you know, the best John Lennon song ever. But like, if
there's such a story there,
and that's why people care. That's why they made a documentary about it. That's why they put so much time and effort and money and blood and sweat and tears into making it, because the whole world is invested in the Beatles as a whole, not invested in that song, right? So
yeah, I do think that social media does take away from some of the lore, because when everything is exposed all the time, you lose some of that sort of like, ooh, what's happening here? You know, the curiosity. I do think that there's, whatever, this is a different conversation, a different podcast episode of like social media, right? But like, I do think that social media has shifted the focus away from the art to some degree. Like it's more about the artist, right? And what they have to say about other things also, maybe not even about music. And for some artists, it's so overwhelming to deal with also having to do the social media presence and make the music, whereas it used to be, I mean, this is like, you know, obviously now everyone can make music and it's more democratized. That is an upside. On the other hand, those that are trying to make a living in music, they have to do a trillion things to make it work.
So then back to the topic of AI. Wouldn't you argue that all of the AI tools that are going to help those artists to get those other things off their plate so they can just focus on creating, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah. But then it's like a vicious cycle, because then we're back to like just following AI algorithms and in our spacesuits and you know what I mean?
That may be jumping a few steps
like
ahead.
Everything is like the internet in 5 years from now, like I feel like everything is fake. We don't know what's real. It's deep. There's deep fakes. You could generate anybody's voice, anybody's visual. Like what is real anymore? You know what I mean? Like that is how I'm envisioning 5 years from now on the internet, or even less. It's just like, I just don't know what's real anymore, you know?
Now, first off,
I'm getting into kooky territory, but I don't know. It's just where my brain is going.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, to be clear, I have very mixed feelings about AI and the good and the bad of it. I am just, for the purpose of this conversation.
And I agree with most of the things you are saying in terms of like it helping people do the more creative stuff. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think we agree on most of this. My old soul is pushing back against your new soul.
Yeah. And I think I just wanted to make it clear that like, we are actively trying to weigh the good and the bad, right? Not just saying, we don't want to be a doom and gloom podcast where we're just like, oh, the whole world's going to shit. But we also don't want to pretend that there's nothing bad happening, right? So I think generally speaking, you lean
That's
more
been the story of my life.
Yeah, but I mean, you lean more naturally towards the skeptical side. I lean a little bit more toward the futurist, like hopeful side, and I think we are actively trying. But I think, thanks. I think we're trying to like kind of actively like turn ourselves up to 11 to try to like cover more ground in this. So to go back to your point, I wanted to say that as a preface to my point that people were probably saying the same thing once the internet started getting more easily accessible. Probably even when Photoshop was first the thing, right? When digitally recorded music was first a thing, when autotune was first a thing. So this is not the first time in human history that we've been up against something where we're like, well, if it continues, how are we going to know what's real and what's not? And I think as the technology develops, so too does our ability to still have that gut feeling, that sixth sense about what's real and what's not. Or also, like, even if it sounds really great, but it doesn't connect emotionally, it doesn't matter how great it sounds.
Yeah. My pushback on that point is, like, I don't know if you watched the video I shared with you of Yuval Noah Harari. He's saying, like, for the first time in history, we don't know what 20 years is going to look like at all. We have zero idea, and we have no idea how good AI is going to get. And probably is going to get very, very good. So I think we just need to be like, there's nothing we can do about it, right? We're just podcast hosts, but I do feel like we just don't really know this time,
But I think what we can do, and maybe this is a good place to kind of try to wrap this one up, best thing that we can do is to try to stay up to date on what's happening and try to understand it, even if we don't use it, even if we don't love it, even if we don't have strong opinions on it yet.
Right. Make a conscious choice not to use it as opposed to a conscious choice to use it.
Well, I guess my point is either way, regardless of whether or not we want to use it, regardless of whether or not we think it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's going to happen. And any information and any understanding and perspective that we can develop for ourselves is going to help us to be able to adapt and navigate whatever craziness comes at us in the future. So I think putting our heads in the sand is not a good way to handle it. I'm not saying that's not what you're getting at all. I'm just saying, like, as opposed to, like, a lot of people will feel the instinctive call to just say, it's bad for humanity, and then they just kind of hope that it
goes away.
I think instead, the benefits of trying to keep up with it, trying to understand it, so that way we understand, if there are times and places that we can have a voice in how legislation is made, we can develop our sense of being able to spot it in the same way that our generation is a lot less likely to get scammed than, like, our parents' generation, for example, because we grew up learning social media, we grew up learning the internet, we grew up becoming more attuned to that and being able to spot it a lot more quickly. Yeah. And I think if we shut ourselves off now at, in our 30s and our 40s, I think that's setting us up for that same sort of future issue where we don't know how to tell. We don't know when it's fake. We don't know when it's
right.
We don't know what's good. We don't know what's bad. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's fake. And I think just regardless of whether you like it or not, it's going to be coming. And I think we need to at least be aware of the changes so we can try to do something when we can.
That. Stay informed, stay updated, try things out, see how it goes,
Eat your vegetables.
Totally eat your vegetables. Try to get some protein in there too if you can. So just to put a ribbon on this episode, AI is coming. It's scary. It's exciting at the same time. It's going to change the landscape of the music industry. It's going to get rid of some jobs. It's also going to get rid of a lot of menial tasks.
Probably going to create a lot of jobs too. It'll get rid of jobs. It'll create new jobs. It's going to do a lot of good, a lot of bad. And I think being open and aware of both the good and the bad is a healthy way to go.
Amazing. Carl, this is great. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.
Thanks for letting me finally do an episode about AI.
No problem.
I'm going to switch to a very serious tone and say bye, Ben.
Bye, Carl. We hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. If anything here resonated with you, please share this or your favorite episode with a friend.
And as always, we love to hear from our listeners. So find us on social media at Secret Sonics,
at Ben Wallach Music,
and at Carl Bonner. Until next time, bye, Ben.
Bye, Carl. That was good. I think the outro was great.